The title of my talk is Influencing Rays and Humanity's Rite of Passage. At its most basic level, the term rite of passage is characterized by three distinct phases. The first one being separation, leaving behind or letting go of the familiar way of thinking. This is letting go of old patterns of conflict and separative consciousness. The second is transition, time of great change, learning and growth, and it's a time for moving from a me-only awareness to the needs of the greater group community and humanity as a whole. The third of the phases of the rite of passage is return, integration and return to man's spiritual source, that is our pure spirit, the monad, which embodies the full balanced expression of will, love, and intelligence on the physical plane. Here we acknowledge humanity is transitioning through a rite of passage in an effort to evolve to the Aquarian ideal. This requires humanity to temper all expressions of the first ray, will or power, the second ray, love, and integrate the energies of the fourth ray, harmony, through conflict, and seventh ray, synthesis. In this
One,
talk,
David, one more pause.
yes,
Are you screen sharing or are you just talking?
I don't know. I'm just talking, I guess.
Do you want to share your screen?
Sure. How do I do that?
You just click the share button.
Oh, share. There we go. And share. There we go. Okay, so is everybody seeing my screen now? Yes?
It's in edit mode, so if you want to then click slideshow and start from beginning.
Slideshow. Oh, slideshow. Yes. And I click on from the beginning. Yes. Okay. Okay. There we go. Um, the only thing is I can't see my notes. Can you you can still hear my voice? Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we've done this in the past. Do you remember portion of screen?
Oh, the portion of the screen. Okay. Let's see. How do I do that again? I'm sorry. You're gonna have to remind me.
Yeah. Click just close your screen share.
Um,
I'll just stop it.
okay.
Now click share.
Share. Yes.
Go over to advanced on the top
I see it there. Yes.
where it says portion of screen, top right.
Top right. Thank you. Yes. And
And
then click
then,
share.
yes, and then you're going to want to drag that green box around um, that content on the PowerPoint itself. Then you could read your notes.
Can you what can you see now?
The actual slide.
Okay, so I can read my notes, then you'll see the slide, I guess. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So in this talk, I'll explore how these four energies are playing out in today's world. With these ideas, I'll be discussing the free expression of the life of God through government, goodwill, and AI. For the phrase free expression of the life of God, I am not using sentimental language. In esoteric terms, this refers to the safe release of divine will from Shambhala into human affairs. An important question to ask: what does it mean to allow the free expression of the life of God? When looking at today's headlines, we can see that government, economics, and social activities are not expressing the higher aspects of the Shambhalic will. A particular concern for us is about the first ray and how dangerous it is when misapplied. To achieve the Aquarian ideal, governance should be aligned with purpose, economically, socially, and politically. Power should be governed by love and compassion. Technology, AI, should be guided by wisdom and ethics. Group work and discipleship should be guided by soul consciousness. This relates to the safe release of the Shambhalic will into humanity. Let's now examine the greater present energies influencing humanity. With two great ages of Pisces and Aquarius overlapping each other, humanity is now at midway point of this transition which will herald a new and evolutionary shift in individual human consciousness. This is due to the shifting energy flows of one age and one ray passing out of activities, and another age and energy pattern coming into influence. During this transitional time, we're witnessing a move towards greater group awareness represented by the Aquarian principle of cooperation and sharing. In today's world, all of the rays are active. Much is old, is familiar, is called into question, and is passing out. This has been the sixth ray represented by a separative and conflict-minded mindset. But simultaneously, the incoming seventh ray energy in combination with the first ray are superseding the sixth ray with new patterns and relationships which in many ways remains unclear and vaguely formed. This is causing great turmoil and change in both the inner and the outer planes. To bring harmony out of chaos, the service workers seek to bring balance between the higher incoming energies and those whose focus continues to exist on the lower 18 subplanes. Since the conclave occurred last year, the stage of the Forerunner has concluded. With this, the service workers, which I'm using as a term for meaning also the nuclear world servers, are using their minds to invoke higher reasoning with the current political, social, and economic upheavals, and for helping in remedying crises. Hierarchical objectives. Since the hierarchical conclave of 1925, the service workers and the hierarchy have accomplished much during the stage of the Forerunner. But hierarchy still has objectives to work out prior to externalization and for the Christ to reappear. Humanity must break down all barriers of separativeness, isolation, and prejudice that are keeping men and nations apart from each other. This is in reference to negating those ideologies which have forced or imposed their will on humanity by assertive governments and individuals and corporations. This has caused humanity to largely focus on manifesting or maintaining materialism and the mindset of separation. We understand that service workers are the hands and feet of hierarchy on the physical plane. They're helping to bring awareness that each nation must realize its responsibility and interrelationship, both politically, socially, and economically, in sharing of resources and for creating a basis for inaugurating an era of peace and abundance for all. The role of the service workers, they act as transmitters of living links of truth between hierarchy and humanity, for invoking ideas and higher spiritual values such as cooperation and goodwill throughout all humanity. By their actions, they're raising the ideal of establishing a more loving, inclusive, and cooperative spirit in all sectors of human life. This helps to uplift the thinking or mental life of everyday man and women to a higher functioning capacity and away from the current astral reactive polarization. Despite the lower astral tendencies in the world, people around the world are raising their mental awareness, often using their concrete and abstract mind in government and industry to address critical issues. So in essence, the free expression of the life of God means the human will is purifying tendencies of expression of lower selfish and separative ego. Human love is aligned with expressing compassion. Power is guided by wisdom. Technology is guided by ethics. Leadership is governed by wisdom and service. The concept of directed purpose, such as through the first ray, is directed by love or compassion and implemented through goodwill. Yes, these are ideals to shoot for, but there are people in the millions in the world that hold these ideals and work toward implementing them. Through the continual efforts of the service workers, their actions result in allowing the safe opening of the door of love and the will to creating the good for the world. Let's talk directly about the first ray. One of the most difficult things for the everyday thinking man to understand is to interpret is the potential destructive forces of what he calls the will of God. The core functions of the first ray energy from Shambhala are: it implements divine intention, It breaks down obsolete or crystallized forms, and it drives transformation and change, and it governs leadership and direction. Thus, it forces evolution forward. From Destiny of the Nations, DK said, the problem of the hierarchy at this time is to produce a wise and adequate fusion of the Shambhala and hierarchical energies, and thus temper destruction and bring to the fore the spirit of construction, setting in motion the building and rehabilitating forces of the second ray energy. The Shambhala energy prepares the way for the energy of hierarchy. We see its primary vehicle of expression of the world today is through government, that is, political activity, and executive action or decision and leadership, such as in government and corporations. DK said there is virtually no first ray souls in incarnation at this time, and that the first ray won't be felt on the astral plane until late in the 21st century. But looking at today's world, we acknowledge the energy of the first ray is being wielded by many separated personalities, particularly from the United States, Israel, Russia, and China. Their intent largely creates chaos and destruction. Leaders of these nations express through political polarization and authoritarianism. But the activity of the separated personalities, it's expressed as the work is in the form of forced reform or destruction, represented by top-down leadership, resulting in damage across all levels of society. Strongman leadership models, ideological extremism, and harsh governance. I know best, ego-centered mentality, resulting in fanatical behavior. Corporate control, dominance mentality, despite what is best for the community environment. In short, we see that their will is not fused with love or for creating stability and harmony in society. Due to the mind's premature response to the new incoming potency, many people in a position of power wielding this energy operate with reactivity, and they are not attuned to human welfare. They have little compassion toward those whom are distressed. Here we can see how the separated personality subverts the energies of Shambhala for their own purposes. On the other hand, a healthy expression of the first ray personality would be somebody with decisive leadership, capacity for bold reform, clear direction with compassion, intent on eliminating corruption. In essence, we see the necessity of the second ray love wisdom to temper only or any first ray inclinations. Let's talk now about right leadership and the use of the will. I've stated the primary expression of the first ray in today's world is through the personality. When considering man's free will, particularly in positions of leadership such as government and corporations, it is always a question of a leader's intention and motivation as to how the power is used. We should ask, what motivates the leader? In a discussion on the expression of the will, one needs to ask whether the energies are carried out by the individual's free will or higher divine will. It is a desire for power, or is it a true aspiration and wanting to carry out activity toward fulfilling a higher ideal, such as what is best for the community or nation? Regarding man's free will, hierarchy cannot interfere, but they act as guides for the race. They influence humanity both individually and through groups via impression and telepathy. This enables man to become consciously aware of the use of his will and an awareness of any consequences. The concept of human free will requires that the individual is able to take more than one possible course or action under a given set of circumstances. This can be in thought, physical action, or both. Free will can divide, destroy, control, or abuse. Abuse of the first ray has manifested in war, domestic violence, criminal and autocratic behavior, also gaslighting from the media, and individuals to cause chaos, confusion, and distortion or blocking of truth. These are all examples of abuse of the first ray. When the awake individual begins to be motivated by a higher vibration of the soul, his sense of free will changes. This means free will can be tempered by a connection with the soul and used to aid, support, and bring together people and groups. This, in fact, would be an expression of love, wisdom, and compassion. So we see that free will represents a choice to act or not. We should always ask what is behind the decision process. For members of the nuclear world servers or service workers and all people of goodwill, their intent is to negate personal desire by employing the higher will of the soul, by combining the mind and the heart to consciously and intelligently affect positive and creative manifestation through their work in the world. In esotericism, this is employing love, wisdom in thought and action. When the individual, community, or nation are motivated by higher impressions from the soul or the higher divine will, they can become spiritually awakened in their thinking process and activities. Ideally, this would foster an environment of goodwill and better human relations among all peoples and nations. We have all seen the example of someone who has been driven by soul impulse by her ideals, is Malala from Pakistan. In 2014, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her activism in human rights advocacy, particularly or especially for the education of women and children. We need our leaders to learn to create a new intentionality by enabling higher group purpose through compassion, cooperation, and goodwill. Spiritually inclined leaders put aside lower desires and anything that causes the personality to become reactive and separative, to the point that clear seeing or knowing is not inhibited. When the first-rate personality is motivated by love, vision, and purpose, then the creation of beauty can be the result that causes. With right guidance from our leaders, a shift in the social, religious, economic, political, and scientific spheres will eventually bring about the unfoldment of human consciousness toward practicing right human relations and establishing the kingdom of God on earth. Working with power and authority. John Adams, statesman, diplomat, and second president of the United States, in his inaugural address in 1797 said, "Government is instituted for the common good, for the protection, safety, prosperity, and happiness of the people, and not for the profit, honor, or private interest of any one man, family, or class of men." DK said the members of the political organizer's seed group or ashram carry with them a certain authority or use of the will that other seed groups do not have. We understand that the seed groups act as a bridge between the ashrams and humanity. The authority of the political organizer's seed group ultimately comes from Shambhala and hierarchy via impression to help bring about international understanding and unity between cultures and nations. This obviously requires much wisdom on their part, as impressions must always be impersonal for allowing mankind to retain free will. The Tibetans said the political organizer's seed group will facilitate right organization of society through the expression of the will. Hierarchy and Shambhala and impress the energy of will mainly through the 10 seed group activity. They understand that unless there is an underlying guiding energies of love, wisdom, combined with the energy of synthesis, the will energy becomes a destroyer and obviously can cause problems on the physical plane. With the advent of the dropping of the atomic bomb in 1945, mankind began to understand the significance of the destroyer aspect. Since 1945, world governments are still grappling with the wisdom of the atomic bomb as a deterrent. When members of the political organizers group impose their will, often there is a friction and destruction as old personality-oriented ways resist change. This is most evident when extreme views from different political parties are vying for power today and want to bend the human will to their wants and desires. The glamour of the imposing authority revolves around desiring something for the separated self or nation, for selfish reasons. It is all about putting the individual's needs above the needs of the greater group or personal power and gain. Interestingly, the illusion of power can happen when the mind of the individual is illumined and his etheric body is filled with light coming from the soul. However, if his heart is closed or any part of the personality is emphasized, it will distort the soul's pure light. For those conscious of their own spiritual path, this work prepares the mind and the unrefined matter of the personality, the etheric body, and the mental plane for thinking with the Aquarian mindset of harmony, unity, truth, and understanding as a way of visioning and thinking and interacting with the world. This glamour can be offset by aligning with the soul and possessing a desire to love and serve others, not harm. The service worker functions best when the higher group needs are met and there are no personal ambitions present. Esoterically, we understand that the only authority recognized is the soul's light of truth, patience, and wisdom as it emerges in consciousness, resulting ultimately in the expression of right human relations. The second ray energy of love wisdom flows through the hierarchy to humanity. Its core functions are building cohesion, expressing compassion and patience. It binds groups together, and this energy tends toward building relationship and unity, and it guides teaching and healing. Overall, the second ray energy governs the hierarchy, the Christ principle, the concept of unity, and group cohesion. When speaking of the first and second rays together, without the second ray, the first ray destroys too quickly. Without the first ray, the second ray tolerates too much and avoids necessary change. Both must cooperate together to create balance of these energies. True spiritual power is safe only when the will is fused with love. A balanced first ray and second ray working together expresses as decisive, strong, bold, and firm leadership. Compassionate, clear, and inclusive, and clear boundaries are established and ethically enforced. Leadership in this form describes an internal fusion at the individual level. The individual or group is not withdrawn from the world, nor authoritarian reformer, but acts as a purposeful servant. In this work, disciples must be harmless, impersonal, and group-centered. The paradox of love. DK said the energy of the second ray, love wisdom, is the underlying pattern of our solar system for implementing the plan. When speaking of the energy of love, we live in a great paradox. With this idea, Marianne Williamson said, love brings up everything unlike itself, so the soul can purge itself of any barriers to love. The grief, loss, shame, and rage we encounter can be devastating, but on the other side of the storm, we emerge reborn. With love being the underlying energy and motivation for change, the hierarchical impulse and objective for evolutionary change on Earth is about helping to manifest love everywhere without preconditions. However, the separated personality says, I will love this or put this energy toward this activity, but not that. In other words, it separates. Is that really an expression of love? Love is a complete expression of unity. DK says love is spontaneous and carries with it the spirit of the Christ, which never judges. It is the personality that separates and limits. Major point to keep in mind is that all creations of love and hate or separatism originate in the mind. It is always up to the individual and group of how the energy is expressed. If power alone is wielded without compassion or wisdom, then it becomes a destructive force. But when these energies and forces are working together for creating harmony in society, then we have the potential for creativity and right governance. For aspirants, disciples, and for everyday individuals within humanity, they must remove all obstacles to change by allowing cooperation and goodwill to fulfill what is declared in the mantra of unification. Let the soul control the outer form in life and all events and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. We know from our esoteric work that the soul must govern our behavior and thinking process, including the higher expressions of will, love, intelligence, and wisdom. This is an Aquarian ideal, but with the thousands of years of humanity having free will, there has been great expressions of love on the one hand and great destruction, selfishness on the other, often with mixed results. Let's now speak about goodwill as a dynamic force for change. First, I want to talk about the nature of goodwill as a force. If we stand back and examine the energy of goodwill, we'll discover, first and foremost, the energy of goodwill is a thought form of love coupled with the energy of will. Thus, goodwill is love in action. Goodwill is not about being kind or expressing sentimentality, but a strategy and the only force capable of aligning a fragmented society. Goodwill coupled with cooperation produces cohesion, unity, and stability. Goodwill reframed is not an emotion. It is a force and a coordinating principle that aligns intention. We note that societies fail not because they lack force, but because they lack coherence. Ask, what binds the community or nation together? A strong, focused personality force motivated by love can compel behavior in a positive direction. An alignment of love and force together is what allows complex systems, such as nations, economies, leaders, and alliances, to function without collapsing. In essence, goodwill creates the conditions for cooperation instead of separatism and confrontation. If we consider our current problems around climate, healthcare, political overreach, cybersecurity, and AI ethics, these cannot be solved with rhetoric alone. These require focused intent, cooperative action, and shared responsibility. For the individual first-rate disciple, the question should be asked, am I implementing purpose or imposing personality? Is my leadership suppressing people emotionally and mentally? Am I aligned with group purpose and intention or personal agenda? Does my will strengthen group cohesion? Let's talk about the first and the seventh rays working together. Esotericists understand that the incoming seventh ray will characterize and set the tone for the incoming new age. One of the main objectives of the seventh ray for individuals and groups is to relate spirit and matter, substance and form together for creating meaningful rhythm and synthesis on the physical plane. It is interesting to note that when humanity is ready to create harmony out of the present world conflict, the energies of the fourth ray will facilitate and prepare humanity for the next stage of synthesis. From this, we can deduce that individuals guided by these energies will be inclined toward assimilating the new harmony through the seventh ray into a new workable form that is beneficial for the group. The seventh ray energy of synthesis combined with the first ray will represents the conscious and intelligent use of the mind for effecting creative manifestation. Seventh ray stimulates man with the spirit of universality and a tendency toward fusion, causes man to impose order or organization. This is most evident when the leader imposes vision and a plan for creating new order within government or a corporation. This gives him or her the ability to integrate and bring into synthetic relation by creating new forms. This process produces the urge toward creating unity and towards understanding and tolerance. In the world of politics, religion, and social activity, the seventh ray influences the creation of laws. Laws are a rhythm codified and imposed by a nation as they influence behaviors to bring forth a new understanding of unity and brotherhood. With the creation of laws, this results in producing the group good, which in turn becomes the known and dominant node. We can symbolically and metaphorically say that all human energies of expression in the political, social, and economic levels of civilizations have been on numerous occasions equivalent to the power of an A-bomb, as we talked about before. These dramatize the power of the first ray. That potential is based completely on the direct decision of the personality. We note that some of the effects upon humanity as a whole, there is a skeleton structure for framework of a new and beautiful future that can take place as a result of the new incoming first ray activity. What is coming is a civilization of a different yet still material in nature, but animated by a growing registration by the masses everywhere of an emerging spiritual objective, which will transform all life, and give new value and purpose to that which is material. Through individuals and groups, they carry out their work by establishing a physical rhythm driven by the will to good as an organizing principle and energy for full creative expression. With this awareness, people are awakening and becoming conscious of the underlying unity of all life and the role they are playing. Conscious is the active word here that involves the human in affecting the evolution of the planet. Internationally, this can be seen as NGOs helping refugees, promoting education for women and children, providing medical help to the disadvantaged, and upholding the ideas of unity and freedom and democracy through peaceful processes around the world. There are those people who are protecting the environment by banning logging or endangered forests, protecting wildlife from poaching, and protecting the oceans from overfishing and pollution. The expression of the will also involves calling for equal rights, equal pay, and equal treatment of women. For the individual working on evolving his own material nature, he chooses to practice esoteric meditation as a way of connecting with the soul's nature. This is also an act of establishing a unity, a seventh ray energy, of the threefold nature in relation to the soul. The 2025 conclave. DK indicated the stage of the forerunner represented preparation, and it ended in 2025. Now, from 2025 forward, the stage of implementation has begun. According to DK, some of the central themes discussed at the conclave were the first stages of externalization is the implementation of the externalization of the soul values into society. Hierarchy decided to externalize and set a possible date for the reappearance of the Christ, the world teacher, to happen sometime in the future, and for the continued expansion of the idea of group consciousness in politics, economic, and social environments. The overall objective was to break down all barriers of sixth ray separativeness, prejudice, and ideological domination. For humanity as a whole, the Aquarian potencies that require the global interrelationship and shared responsibility are being enabled. The role of the service workers in the post-conclave era, with the stage of the forerunner ending, the work of the service workers now shifts from preparation to implementation. They act as transmitters of living links of truth. They act as a bridge between hierarchy and humanity. They help in neutralizing mental first-ray personality or sixth-ray idealism polarization. And this plays out as neutralizing all astral reactivity by creating coherence and unity. They evoke ideas of cooperation, goodwill, and sharing. And their work involves building group synthesis. And this would be about coming from inner alignment with higher principles at the individual level to becoming an outer influence in the world. The fourth ray is the energy of harmony through conflict. Today, the influence of the fourth ray is being felt on the mental and astral planes, which is stimulating the work of meditation and conflict resolution among individuals and groups and nations. The fourth ray is a conditioning ray of humanity that brings qualities for preparing the discrimination and balance required for the intellectual and emotional refinement of humanity. The fourth ray strongly influences mediation, diplomacy, creativity, and the arts. Primarily, the fourth ray of harmony through conflict is the ray of beauty, art, and music. In 2025, new forms of music and art will emerge that will be influenced by the incoming fourth ray cycle. These new art forms will reflect the fresh frequencies precipitating into human consciousness, reflecting the incoming energies of Aquarius. They will complement the energies of the fifth ray, science. We're already seeing this through creative AI-generated videos and music of fantasy and beauty. In the last 30 years or so, we've seen an explosion in the field of communication, technology, through the telephone and computer, through Zoom, phone apps, WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, etc. From a neutral point of view, these all have brought people to a closer relation on the inner and the outer planes from other like-minded people and groups in different parts of the world. Worldwide spiritual networks have also been created, such as Lucis Trust with their annual conferences, Seven Ray Conference, of course, Moria Federation, Esoteric School, and the Theosophical Society, and many more. AI apps like ChatGPT, Genesis, Claude, Perplexity, and others only provide extensive background info and are based on whatever query that you put in. But you can generate images based on relative human sensitivity, input such as creating an image from your own impressions. Additional queries with AI allow the user to write documents, resume, novels, software programs, etc. This, as we've found as an example with the Moria Federation, this has led to individuals wanting to create their papers from AI rather than from their own mind and inspiration. So it's an ongoing problem. The advent of AI and its influence in the last couple of years in virtually all facets of society, we should ask, is AI guided by second ray love, wisdom, or ethics, or is it by first ray power of the imposing personality and intellect? Although skilled artists are creating beauty and creativity and harmony in their works, fourth ray influence, we note it is often functioning and being developed without ethical integration or constraints. In the world of politics and religion and social activity, the seventh ray influences the creation of laws. Laws are a rhythm codified and imposed by a nation, and they help to bring forth new understandings of unity, brotherhood, and thus the group good becomes the dominant node. Disciples should care because without ethics in place, AI becomes an amplifier of misinformation and a tool of manipulation and a vehicle of ideological domination. As previously discussed, power without love becomes dangerous, whether political or through the impact of technology. Listening to higher impulses. With the service workers having a sense of the plan and a higher objective in mind, it is important to be aware of how both individuals and groups are working within civilization and culture. When we are setting about changing a system or a process, then in our context, we need to be aware of where our consciousness is at a given moment and how we are using our minds. The service worker should always ask, am I wisely employing my energies with intelligent intent? What is my motive and purpose? And is my conscious aligned with my soul instead of my personality? This certainly makes a decision. This certainly makes a difference for right orientation in thought form creation. But we do not want to build thought forms directly. Instead, we were working along indicated lines, connecting with the soul and keeping our minds open to impression for working out the plan in the world. A time will follow when the thought form for intended service will slowly and naturally come into manifestation and will become a living embodiment of the desired idea. alive, and vitalized. When the mind is focused in the present on what the personality thinks should be done in a particular field of activity, such as in the political or social fields, the personality-generated thought forms block any higher impressions or ideas coming from the masters, the initiates, or the ashram. When service workers are implementing hierarchical work, they are functioning both esoterically and exoterically. In this spiritual enterprise, servers express love and desire for creating harmony and synthesis with all beings, regardless of the kingdom. So underlying this discussion has been about how goodwill and cooperation are playing a critical role in implementing divine intent. We understand that these energies are actually forces of discipline and change for good. We observe that when the first ray provides direction and the second ray ensures balance and inclusiveness, cooperation becomes intelligent and effective rather than forced or naive. In this great crucible, the fourth ray mediates differences, translating these tensions into a creative synthesis. In this way, goodwill acts as a regulating field by tempering power, deepening love, and harmonizing conflict. So in conclusion, there is a thought form of showing divine purpose in all that we do. But as the conclave of 2025 has taken place, we ask, is humanity ready? Has the Nukupa World Servers or the service workers made enough significant inroads in bringing unity and harmony to all the kingdoms? We, as the service workers, must see our place in evolution to shift what is happening in the collective by allowing the creative intelligence of the soul to flow through us in powerful ways for enabling change. We as disciples and esotericists need to have courage to evoke new ideas and confront the entrenched dark forces with light and goodness, driven by the higher spiritual values, namely cooperation, goodwill, and a life of ethics. Keep in mind the externalization of the hierarchy initially involves invoking and evoking higher spiritual values that can be promulgated throughout society at the political, social, and economic levels. We should support all efforts toward enabling cooperation, goodwill, neutralizing corruption, negating misinformation, and being accountable. Our immediate responsibility as esotericists in this work is to align with group and ashramic purpose, be open to impressions, and facilitate the work of the hierarchy for enabling the plan to manifest. Our goal as members of the service workers is not to divide and hate, but to bring people together in unity and cooperation and right relationship. We must confront the darkness of expressions of light from the soul, support truth-telling through skill and action. We individually and collectively must strive to know ourselves by redeeming the lower self to become the conscious self, that is, the soul. We must continue to be focused and open to impulses and impressions from the soul and the hierarchy without getting lost in partisan politics and separative consciousness, such as being swayed by conspiracy theories. This is a call and appeal for us to use our creative energies for supporting right human relations and cooperation in all our activities and relationships across all the 10 seed groups. I'll close with these 3 quotes. From Dina 1, the Tibetan said, "We know that this is the hour of humanity's greatest opportunity. And if men can pass triumphantly through this and, by the strength of their own souls, surmount the very present evil, then the evolution of humanity will be hastened beyond all that was believed possible. It will constitute a release, self-achieved and self-initiated. This means as much in life to mankind as it means to the life of the individual disciple." And the other 2 quotes I'll close with. "You are not the darkness you endured, you are the light that refused to surrender. In the end, this shadow is but a small and passing thing. There is light and high beauty forever beyond its reach. Find the light, and the shadow will not find you." Thank you.